Alright, what is going on, everybody? In today's video, I'll be showing you guys the top 5 best class setups to use here in Season 1 of Vanguard. So these 5 class setups right here, in my opinion, are currently the best all-around classes in Vanguard right now. But real quick, before we get into class setups here, if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on post notifications so you get notified when I post the best class setups every single day here for Vanguard. And if you haven't liked the video, please consider hitting that like button because it helps the video get pushed out to more people, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, getting the class setups here at number 5, I'm going to be doing the PPSH-41 here. This, in my opinion, is the second most dominant close range weapon in Vanguard right now. The time to kill is just absolutely insane on it. I would say it's second right behind the MP40. But starting off the class setup here, we're using the recoil booster for our first attachment for that +2 fire rate. Obviously, it's going to make the weapon shoot faster, increasing the time to kill on this weapon. And again, like I said, once you put all these attachments on this weapon, it's literally just going to delete enemies. One of the fastest time to kills in Vanguard. So just make sure you're using the recoil booster here. Now for the barrel here, we're going to be using the ZAC 300M barrel. So we get that bolt velocity and range, accuracy, and recoil control and accuracy boost. Obviously, just making us a little bit more effective at those longer ranges, giving us that accuracy. Again, you don't really have to worry about that movement speed and hip fire accuracy because, like I said, we're going to add so many attachments on that are going to make us very good at close range and long range here. So just make sure you stick with the ZAC 300mm barrel here. Now for the optic, we're going to be sticking with the SLATE reflector. This is just over my personal favorite site to use here on basically every weapon in Vanguard. This is the site that I would recommend on this weapon here, or like the Nidar Model 47 or the Nidar Model 47. There's a couple iron sights on this PPSH that are pretty good here, but at the end of the day, just use whatever optic you're most comfortable with. Now for the stock here on this PPSH build, we're going to be using the ZAC folding stock. So we get that +2 initial accuracy and recoil, +1 aim down sight speed, and +1 recoil recovery. As going to details, you can see, so just another one that's going to add on a lot of accuracy, making us a little bit more effective at those longer ranges. And then we're also going to add on 3.9% aim down sight time, giving us that advantage at those close range gunfights. We're going to lose out on some hip fire accuracy, but the main thing is here, you can see how much accuracy and ADS time that we add on here with only losing out on hip fire accuracy, which is just absolutely crazy. So that's why we're going to be using the ZAC folding stock here. Now for the underbarrel, we're going to go with the M1941 hand stops. We get that +1 recoil control and +1 accuracy boost here. Again, as you can see in the numbers, it's going to add on a lot more accuracy while taking away from like no mobility, which is the main thing. A lot of people like to use a Carver foregrip for that little bit more vertical recoil control, which the PPSH does not need. So just make sure you're sticking away from this because, as you can see, it takes away from 4.1% aim down sight time, which we do not want because we want to be very, very dominant at those closer ranges. And taking away from that 4.1% is going to hurt us a lot at those close range gunfights. So that's why we're just going to be stick with the M1941 hand stop for the underbarrel. Now for the magazine, we're using an 8mm Nambu 71 round drum mags here, or not drum mags, just mags. We get that +5 recoil control and accuracy, +2 fire rate, +1 movement speed, and then obviously the +1 magazine ammo capacity with us having 71 rounds there. As good details here, you can see it hurts a lot of damage, effective damage range, bolt velocity. But you got to remember that this weapon has an extremely fast fire rate, and 21 damage with that just insanely huge fire rate there is going to just delete the enemies. Like I said, have one of the fastest time to kills in the game, so you don't even have to worry about that. Your movement speed is going to get increased by that +1% there. 11 trigger having 11 miles per hour, which is pretty good. Your aim down sight time is going to get decreased by 2% there. Again, doesn't really hurt us that much. It's just 2%. Vertical and horizontal recoil control go up by +25% for both those there, which is a huge boost. It's going to make us more effective at those medium to longer ranges. We're not just going to be stuck at that close range, which is very important about this build here. And then we also get that increase to our hip fire accuracy here. So that's why we're just going to be stick with the 71 round mags. The ammo type here, I personally like using the hollow point ammo type, which is going to increase the limb damage, giving us the ability to hit that 4-shot kill. Which, again, I mean, you can use lengthen, but personally on this build, I highly recommend you guys using hollow point just so you get that chance of hitting that 4-shot time to kill instead of 5 shots. Now for the rear grip here on this PPSH build, I do use the fabric grip here just so we can get that aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, and hip fire recoil recovery, because at the end of the day, this weapon is made for close ranges. So in the attachments that we can kind of take advantage of adding all those mobility stats on, that's what we're going to do. That's what the fabric grip does here with that +5% to our sprint to fire time, +4% to our aim down sight time. Again, helping us a lot in those close range engagements. We only lose out on 3.8% horizontal recoil control, which is barely even noticeable there. So that's why we're using the fabric grip there. Now for the proficiency, we're using the tight grip proficiency. So we get that +1 accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, because if like you're in a longer range fight and you're shooting a lot more bullets than you'd like to, like you would be at a closer range, you're going to need that +1 accuracy and recoil during sustained fire just to stay a little bit more accurate, help you win those longer range gunfights. And then finally here for the kit, we're using the fully loaded kit, so we can start off with the max amount of starting ammo possible, and that's going to be the PPSH build. Now number 4 here is going to be the STG-44 class setup here. So starting off with the muzzle, we're using the recoil booster, so we get that +2 fire rate, because with this weapon, the horizontal recoil control is really not going to be a problem, so you really don't have to worry about any of those horizontal recoil stats. We're going to up that fire rate, obviously making the gun shoot faster, giving us that faster time to kill. So make sure you stick with the recoil booster here. Now for the barrel here, we're going to use the VDD 760 barrel. It's going to make us highly accurate and controllable, give us that reduced reduced scope sway and gun bob. It's also going to increase the damage range. And as you can see there, it says just what it gives us here. It gives us that vertical and horizontal recoil control, making us more effective at those longer ranges. Our effective damage range also gets increased by 15%, making us keep those high damage numbers at those longer ranges. So that's why we're using the VDD 760 barrel here. For the optic, you already know I'm going to stick with the SLATE reflector here. This is overall my personal favorite sight to use, as I always say. At the end of the day, just use whatever optic you're most comfortable with, though. The stock here means the VDD 27 precision stock, which gives us that +3 horizontal recoil control and +1 aim down sight speed. The aim down sight speed is actually very important with this class setup here. So that's why we're sticking with this stock. And we also get that +10.5% to a horizontal, which, as you can see, the horizontal number, we're basically gonna have no horizontal recoil control with this weapon. And with later attacks, we're gonna have basically no vertical either. So basically no recoil. If we do lose out on -4% to our movement speed, this weapon is still gonna have very good movement speed with later attachments, as you can see in that movement speed number. And we do lose out of some hip fire there, but like I said, this is a long range weapon. We're not gonna be really worrying about that hip fire. So that's why we're using the VDD 27 precision stock. Now for the underbarrel, we're using the M3 ready grip. So you get that +1 aim down sight speed, +1 sprint to fire speed, and +1 aim bucking movement speed. Again, this build is made for long range, but we also want mobility, because there's another build that a lot of people use that used to be the best build before the nerf. That was they really heavily relied on accuracy and damage range, and it kind of sucked at mobility. So this is going to give us a lot of mobility here and that damage range and damage. This, you can see we get that ADS walking speed to go up by +5.4% there, sprint to fire time +4.6, and aim on sight time +3.6 there, while losing out on barely any vertical and horizontal recoil control. So that's why we're using the M3 ready grip here. Now for the magazine, we're going to be using the 8mm Kurz 45 round drum mags here, just so we can have 45 rounds, which is the most amount of ammo possible with the STG here. And most importantly, we're just going to be able to keep very, very good accuracy with this weapon. If you use like the Russian short 30 round mag here, as you can see, it completely tanks your vertical and horizontal recoil control and movement speed, which we don't want. So you're going to want to stick with the 8mm 45 round drum mag here. For the ammo type, we're going to be stick with the length and ammo type, so you get that +3 bolt velocity, making us more effective at those longer ranges. Now for the rear grip, you're going to use these stippled grips, so you get that +2 recoil recovery and +1 initial action recoil, making you more effective at those longer ranges. It's going to make it look like you basically have no recoil with this rear grip here. So that's why we're using the stippled grip. For the proficiency, we're going to use the vital proficiency, so we get that +1 increased area for critical hits, which with this magazine that we're using allows us to use vital. The Russian short 30 round mags use larger caliber rounds, which would not work with vital. So just make sure you stick with vital here. And then finally here for the kit, we're using the fully loaded kit, so we can start with the max amount of starting ammo possible, so we don't have to worry about reloading. And that's going to be the STG 44 class setup here. Now at number 3 here, we have the Cooper carbine, which can be built so many ways. You can build as a long range AR, a medium range AR, an SMG. You can build it so many different ways here. But at number 3, this is my personal favorite build for the Cooper carbine here. Starting off, we're going to be using the recoil booster again, so we get that +2 fire rate, increasing the fire rate of the weapon, overall increasing the time to kill. This weapon's going to have a very, very fast time to kill. You're not going to have to worry about vertical and horizontal recoil control after all these attachments are on. So that's why I'm using the recoil booster here. For the barrel, we're using the 22-inch Cooper custom barrel, making us highly accurate and controllable, giving us that reduced scope sway and gun bob, and increasing our fire rate, which again, it's a weird attachment that increases your fire rate, but it also increases your vertical and horizontal recoil control. When usually it's the other way around. If you increase the fire rate, you're going to lose a ton of vertical and horizontal recoil control. So that's what I really like about this attachment here. We add on 51% to horizontal, completely eliminating all the horizontal that we do have. We lose out on some sprint to fire time here, but we're going to help that out with later attachments. So that's why I'm using the 22-inch Cooper custom barrel. For the optic here, again, we're going to use the SLATE reflectors. Just overall my personal favorite sight to use here on basically every weapon in Vanguard. I think it's the best that you can put on this Cooper carbine here. But at the end of the day, just use whatever optic you're most comfortable with. For the stock here, we're using the Cooper 45 RS stock, which will give us that +2 initial action recoil, +1 aim down sight speed, and +1 recoil recovery. Again, just going to be a huge attachment here with this stock to make this weapon seem like it has absolutely zero recoil. And then we also get that +3.8% to our aim down sight time, making us more effective in those close to medium range engagements. So that's why we're using the Cooper 45 RS stock. Now for the underbarrel here, we're using the M1941 hand stop, so we get that +1 recoil control and +1 accuracy, which gives us +4.8% to both our vertical and horizontal recoil control. And we're not taking away from aim down sight time, which is very important there. So that's why I use the M1941 hand stop here. And for the magazine, you're going to use the 9mm 60 round drum mag, so you get that +5 recoil control and accuracy, +2 fire rate, +2 magazine ammo capacity, and +1 aim down sight speed. And that's going to detail, so you can see it completely eliminates all the vertical and horizontal recoil control that this weapon does have, which is very nice there. We increased our aim down sight time by 3.1%. And we also increased our fire rate by +8.2% there. But we do tank a lot of damage, effective damage range, and bolt velocity. But you do have to remember that this weapon is still going to be doing 20 damage per bullet. And the fire rate on this weapon is faster than most SMGs, which is absolutely insane, while having almost no horizontal and vertical recoil whatsoever. So just make sure you stick with the 9mm 60 round drum mags here. And for the ammo type, we're going to use the length and ammo type, so you get that +3 bolt velocity, making us more effective at those longer ranges. For the rear grip, we're going to use the fabric grip, so you get that +1 aim down sight speed, +1 sprint of fire speed, and +1 hip fire recovery. Again, just giving us a lot more mobility ability here because we do not need to add on any more vertical and horizontal recoil control, because with all these attachments on here, we're going to have absolutely zero vertical and horizontal recoil. We do not have to worry about that. This is just going to add on a little bit more ability here. For the proficiency, again, we're going to be using the vital proficiency, so we get that +1 increased area for critical hits. And then finally here for the kit, we're using the fully loaded kit, so we can start off with the max amount of starting ammo possible, and that's going to be the Cooper carbine build. Now, number 2 here, we have the automaton, which is the best assault rifle in Vanguard right now and the best long range weapon in the game. So starting off here with the class setup here, for the first attachment for the muzzle, you're going to use the recoil booster, again, adding on that fire rate, increasing the time to kill on this weapon. For the barrel here, you're going to use the Anastasia sniper build. It's going to be that bolt velocity and range and accuracy boost here. Again, that plus 60% to effective damage range, which is absolutely ridiculous. Be able to keep those high damage numbers at those longer ranges. Bolt velocity, again, making your bullets travel faster. Hit enemies, just drop them faster at those longer ranges. Horizontal recoil going up by plus 10% there. So just want to make sure you're using the Anastasia sniper barrel. And for the optic here, again, we're just going to be sick with the SLATE reflector. My personal favorite sight to use here. Like I said, I'm basically every weapon in Vanguard. It's very good on the automaton. There's really nothing obstructing your vision. Very easy to control the recoil. The very little recoil that this weapon does have when you start shooting those sustained fire shots, very, very long range. That's really the only time you're going to have to run into trying to control recoil. Just make sure you stick with the SLATE reflector here. And for the stock here, you're going to use the exact skeletal stock, which give you that +4 aim walking movement speed, +4 aim walking steadiness, and +1 initial action reroll. As you go to the details, you can see it's just going to make you more effective at this longer range. You can be dead accurate, and it's also going to increase your ADS walking speed by plus 35% there, which is a just insanely huge boost. You're going to have a very, very fast strafing speed. It doesn't even seem real. I feel like this stock might get nerfed in the future just because 35% is just absolutely ridiculous there, the ADS walking speed. But just make sure you stick with the exact skeletal stock here. Now for the barrel, we use the M1941 hand step, so you get that +1 recoil control and +1 accuracy. We've went over this under barrel multiple times in this video already. As you can see, it just adds on that plus 4.8% to your vertical and horizontal recoil control, and most importantly, it's not taken away from any ADS time. So that's why we're using the M1941 hand stop. For the magazine here, it is the 75 round drum mag here, just so you can have the most amount of ammo possible. Now for the ammo type, again, we're going to be going with lengthen, so we get that +3 bolt velocity, making us more effective at those longer ranges. And for the rear grip, we're going to use the stippled grip, so you get that +2 recoil recovery and +1 initial action recoil, obviously making us more accurate at those longer ranges. That initial action recoil, as I've went over multiple times, is a very good stat in this game. It's going to make that first 10 to 15 bullets look like you have absolutely zero recoil, so that's why we're using the stippled grip here. For the proficiency, you're going to use the tight grip proficiency, so you get that +1 accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. Again, we've added on attachments that help with the initial shots. This is going to help with the sustained fire, so just make sure you stick with the tight grip here. And then finally here for the kit, we're going to go with the fully loaded kit, so we can start with the max amount of starting ammo possible, and that's going to be the second best build in the game, the automaton. Now at number 1 here, we do have the MP40, which this class setup here is the all-around best weapon in Vanguard right now, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with me if they played the game a lot. Starting off with the class setup here for the muzzle, you're going to use the recoil booster again, so you get that +2 fire rate, increasing the time to kill on this weapon that's already ridiculously fast. Just make sure you stick with the recoil booster here. For the barrel, we're going to use the Krausnik 317 barrel. It's going to make us highly accurate and controllable and give us that reduced scope swing gun bob. And as you can see in the details, the main reason why we're using this attachment here, so we get that plus 40% to our horizontal recoil control, eliminating all the horizontal recoil that this weapon does have. Now for the optic, I'm going to use the Krausnik ISO 1M optic here. It kind of keeps the OG MP40 iron sights here. In my opinion, it's the best iron sights on this weapon that you can use. I know a lot of people that use this weapon also use these iron sights here, or the ISO 2M. Some people also use the SLATE reflector here. It really comes down to personal preference. I'm personally comfortable with these, so I stick with the ISO 1M iron sights here. Now for the stock, we're using the Krausnik 33M folding stock, so we get that +2 sprint to fire speed and +1 movement speed, which obviously gives us a ton of mobility boost here with that plus 8.7% to our sprint to fire time, which as you can see, the sprint to fire time on this weapon is absolutely ridiculous. That's where this weapon really dominates at those close range engagements. You're always the one to shoot first. You can win those gunfights very easily, and you also increase your movement speed by plus 2% there, while losing on some vertical and horizontal recoil control, but we're taking care of all that vertical and horizontal recoil in the attachments that we can here, so that's why we're using the Krausnik 33M folding stock. Now for the underbarrel here, we're going to use the SMLE pistol grip, so you get that +2 sprint to fire speed and +1 hip fire accuracy. And as you go into details here, you can see the main reason why we're using this attachment, so we get that plus 10.2% to our sprint to fire time. This, I think, is kind of the attachment that sets this weapon over the edge, making it just completely dominant at those closer ranges with that sprint to fire time. We do lose on some vertical and horizontal recoil control, but with all these attachments on, you're not going to have to worry about that. We do add 3.3% to our hip fire accuracy, which as you can see here, the hip fire accuracy on this weapon is just absolutely insane too. So just make sure you stick with the SMLE pistol grip. Now for the magazine here, we're going to use the 9mm 64 round drum mag here, just so you can have the most amount of ammo possible. And for the ammo type, we're going to be stick with the lengthened ammo type, so you get that +3 bolt velocity, making us more effective at those longer ranges. The rear grip is going to be the stippled grip, so you get that +2 recoil recovery and +1 initial action recoil, making us more effective at those medium to long range gunfights. For the proficiency here, you're going to use the brace proficiency, so you get that +1 initial action recoil. And then finally here for the kit, we're going to use the quick kit, so we can get that +1 sprint speed, making us faster around the map, and that's going to be the #1 class setup in Vanguard right now, this MP40 class setup. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like rating, comment down below if I forgot something, or if you really enjoyed a class setup here, let me know which one is your favorite to use out of these 5 class setups here, and thanks for watching.